Our involvement was based on the fact that when Britain went to war, Australia and New Zealand at that stage automatically went to war, even if that war was in another part of the world. On April 25th, 1915, Australian and New Zealand troops joined British Allied forces and went ashore in Turkey at the Dardanelles, a narrow strait in northwestern Turkey that forms the continental boundary between Europe and Asia. And it's one of the narrowest straits in the world for international shipping navigation. The plan was to take the northern shore of the peninsula so that the guns of the Ottoman Empire could be silenced and that a naval force could then pass safely through the straits to the Sea of Marmara, and as part of that effort then take Constantinople, which is now known as Istanbul. Gallipoli, as Australians and New Zealanders were to know the campaign, turned out to be a loss for Allied forces and a baptism of fire for Australian and New Zealand troops. 8 months after the landing of Gallipoli, the Australian casualties numbered 26,000, 8,000 dead in an area that is now known as ANZAC Cove and the adjacent Suvla Bay, were finally evacuated. And incidentally, the evacuation was a highly successful military operation. Again, to put this into perspective, Australia tragically lost 8,000 men, the French lost 10,000 and the British 34,000. It was to be the Ottoman Empire's only victory of World War I, but is widely accepted as what we call the foundation of the ANZAC spirit in Australia and New Zealand today. And in many ways, from an Australian perspective, it marks the birth of our nation, as we'd only been a country for 13 years at the start of the First World War. What the failed Gallipoli campaign became was a legend and a test of us as a nation. But it needed to be remembered that that test of nationhood was on the back of a military defeat. But the values that are so dear to this day to Australians, of bravery, ingenuity, endurance and comradeship, all came together to what we call the Australian value today of mateship. And so Anzac Day today has become the most sacred day on the Australian and New Zealand calendar, and it comes to represent the day when we recognise victims of all wars, not just World War I. But in all wars, of course, there is a cost.